Ah, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, people out there. Good evening to those that always join me every time this when I go live. Thank you so much again one more time. Please don't get tired of me saying thank you. I always want to thank you because it really goes straight to my heart that you actually take your time just to listen to me. All right, and also just apologies of being a bit late. I was trying to set up outside today. I just felt like I want to have that ambience of being outside. All right. So today, as I said, I want to talk onto today's topic. Accepting change, accepting change, accepting change, accepting change. A lot of people will say that change is inevitable. A lot of people say change is something that you cannot run away from. Change is something that's bound to happen. Change is something that is going to happen. Now, and it's very important that as people we get to understand that change is going to happen and it has to happen and it will happen. Now, as you guys know, I always say that mainly we talk to men on this platform. I just talk to men. Yes, ladies are always welcome to come in and jump in and listen, but it's mostly about us men. And mostly I speak on relationships with your spouse and relationships with your child. And I always say this, I'm not coming here and trying to be some guru or someone who's more knowledgeable, but I believe with the little wisdom that the Holy Spirit or God has blessed me with, I can bless and share with somebody out there. And also, this is a platform for us to share. As you can see on the yesterday's live, we began, somebody began also showing me certain things, which I'm very much appreciative of that. Though I also want to make it and get you guys to understand that this is not mostly just general talk about you having your own, but it's very, very much aimed at you being with your relationship with your child, with your relationship with your spouse. It's mostly men and again with us ourselves as men. So today, as I said, it's all about accepting change. Accepting change. I spoke a bit that change is inevitable. Change is something you cannot run away from. Change is something that is bound to happen. Now, one would then say, what is change? Obviously, change, we know, as we all know it, it's something that ceases to remain the same, or it's something that hits a bumpy patch and then take a turn into being something different. Now, you find that this is something that a lot of people in relationships actually struggle with. Sometimes we come to a point we struggle with change in our relationships with our kids, in our relationships with our partners, in our relationship with our parents. We struggle a lot because change is something that has to happen. And sometimes you find that a person would say, but you have changed, you're no longer the same. Yes. Last year I was 20, this year I'm 25. You understand? Last year I was 20, this year I'm 21. Simply because of you have gained a year. That means you have gained a certain way of thinking. You must understand one thing, child of God, or you out there, as that the more you grow, is the more you also get to experience things differently. Experiences that you go through, things that you go through, will actually bring change into your life. That's why they say change is inevitable. Because of what you went through yesterday, you will not remain the same person again today. That's why they say a same mistake repeated is no longer a mistake, it's a choice. You understand? So, because of certain experiences, because of certain things that we go through as people, we always come to a point where we are going to develop a certain way of thinking, develop a certain way of talking, develop and all these things happen because of what we go through. And I want to challenge us men. I want to challenge us men, to always help our wife to notice and go with the change in us. I'll tell you now, one thing I've noticed with me personally. The time before my son came in, at the time it was just me and my wife. I'm no longer the same person. Yes, there are certain character traits that are always there. I love joking. I still love watching my cartoons. Like I love my Dragon Ball Z, my Naruto. I love my cartoons. Will never separate me from that. Right? I still love my sports. But there are things that now I'm much more willing to sacrifice than I accepted when it's just the two of us. There are things now, there are decisions that I make now in my family because I'm now affected by these two. There are decisions that I used to make when it just was me. There are decisions that I used to make when it was just me and my wife. There are decisions that I'm making now. And believe you me, those decisions are not the same. They are not the same. Because how I used to spend money when it was just the two of us and how I spend money now because it's the three of us is totally different. And that's where sometimes we as men, we fail to actually get our women to actually understand that and gain that momentum and move with the change when it comes to us. Because there is, whether you like it or not, the minute you become a father who is playing that role, who is there for their child, there's a thing that's going to shift. You know, that's why you find that sometimes, yes, there are men that their drinking pattern probably doesn't change that much, but if you actually check, their consumption has changed. Yes, they can still drink every weekend, but they don't drink the same that they used to drink, especially those who are involved in their child's life. And I keep on saying this, go back to your child. Because sometimes there is positive change and there is negative change. And you need to understand that in most cases, the positive change in the person's life is highly influenced by the people that are in their lives as well. Now, the change that you hit as a man, if you are highly involved in your child's life, there is a certain change that you hit that will actually manipulate or cause a certain structure of change in your child's life or in your spouse's life. If you are a person that is always there for them, there is a certain change that's going to come, that's going to hit them. And that change is going to be simply because you are always there and you're always communicating the change and you're always being with them. Listen, there's nothing wrong with actually sitting your wife and say, baby, I've noticed that in the house there's I've changed how I speak, I've changed how I do things. Please tell me if you're not comfortable. Communication is key because it's not that things change without you noticing. You notice things when they change. You notice things when they change. And there is nothing wrong with accepting the fact that you love your child or you love your wife. There is nothing wrong with accepting and sharing that with your friend that, guys, there is something that changed in me. Now, when it comes to positive change and negative change, let me just give you a simple breakdown of the two. Now, the negative change, if you look at it, negative change is the one where you change to be the worst. Because, yes, as men, we can change to be the worst towards our kids and towards our spouses. You could have been a man that used to speak. And I need you to understand that our change, as I said before, that our change is influenced by the experience and the circumstances that we go through. Sometimes that where your tone changes of how you speak to your wife or how you handle things simply because of the pressures or the experiences of your outside life. It can be that it's your work life, it can be that it's your friendship with your friends, or sometimes it can be that it's that fix. A change, it brings negative, sometimes it can bring negative change. Have you noticed that sometimes when you are having a lot of stress at work, there is a bit of a change that comes in? And in most cases, if you're not a person that normally speaks to your wife or child, when you don't share things that you go through at work, in most cases, it becomes a negative change because that's then you are going to begin to shout at everybody for nothing. Yes, that is change. Because if they are used to you as a person who's always talking well, and all of a sudden there is a change in your tone, and you need to understand that negative change can either destroy you, even in fact, it can destroy you. That's why you need to come to a point where you accept change. That's why when you understand that even when you go through the Bible, I always bring reference to it. There are changes that took place. There are changes in everything. When Jesus Christ died, there was a change in how things used to work. And you either move with the change or you stay behind. And it's very important that we understand the change. And I believe that sometimes the change that was meant to be positive can also become negative. I always say this with my friends when we are talking, and they say, no, but marriage this, marriage that. I say, you know what? I sometimes wish that how marriage used to be with our parents didn't change with us. But you get to understand that the change was meant to be positive, but it's now having a negative impact. When you can sometimes check our parents, our grandparents, they survived years in marriage. For us, it's a quick fix thing. And sometimes I wish we can just understand that times, yes, we understand that times have changed, but it's not everything that has to change. That's why now you begin to take certain things, you understand that these certain things that are in you as time change, when you change them, when you move up with them, when you keep up with the time, make sure that they are not having a negative change or negative impact in you. For an example, let me give you a simple thing that right now has caused a change in everyone's life. The coronavirus, the lockdown. It has brought change into all of us, whether we like it or not. We have change. Some of us now, they always put this post as if they're joking. They'll say, those who used to say, let me go play, bana ba bang," now you are forced to play with your own kids. That's a change. Because now you're getting, you see, it's as much as I love that some people say that actually this coronavirus, it's actually just a reset button. I would love to look at it that way as well, that it's a reset button. It's a button that is meant to bring positive change. What do I mean by positive change? It's there so that a man can change how they see their partner. A man can change how they see their children. A man can change the situation in the house. One of the funniest posts that I read and I actually laughed when they said there's been no sports for the past days. And I sat with this woman who she says she's my wife. And I actually realized she's quite a good person. And I got to realize that there are certain things that, yes, are there and we love them. But we said sometimes neglect certain small things. Now, the positive change is the change that happens in a family or in a man, that now it becomes something beautiful that you bring out of your wife, that out of your child. When you used to speak to your wife in hurtful words, but now you begin to speak to your wife in a beautiful way. Listen, one thing I've learned is that wives are like flowers. Our spouses are like flowers. Our children are like flowers. And our words is that manure and that water that they need in order for them to grow. I will repeat myself. Our children, our wives, our spouses are like flowers. And our words are like water and the manure that they need for them to grow and flourish. When you understand that, you then begin to accept beautiful change, to accept positive change in your way of how you speak to your wife and how you speak to your children. Yes, sometimes change is brought in by work. Sometimes because you are not a person that was working, used to, you know, excuse me, as I said it again yesterday, it's not corona. You know, part of the things that I'm just gonna be blunt here. You know, part of the thing, the changes that messes up relationships the most, or marriages the most, is the change in the bedroom. You guys used to go 2, 3, 4 rounds in yana, but now because there's work, or because there's certain things that have peeped through, obviously chances are of you going again for 2, 3 around 6 rounds it becomes a bit more difficult. And that is a change that can either be positive or negative. And if not communicated and if not understood, it can break your marriage, can break your relationship. Change can be that you used to be that father that was always there for the kids, but now because of your work and because of certain things that have crept in, sometimes you find it a bit difficult to spend more time with your kids. Though you need to find a way to do it, but also because of your work demanding and all that, yes, there is going to be a pattern. Maybe you used to play with your kids each and every day when you came back from work for 5 hours. You don't need to take away all the 5 hours. You can probably bring a change and do it to 3 hours, bring it to 2 hours. By then, you are not running away from your kids. You are accepting that there is change and you are still being there for your kids. With your wife, you communicate and say, babe, on some other days, I'll be unable. Or even if it's your wife, she will communicate with you and say, babe, on some other days, I won't be able. But on days when I've got energy and we are all good, heck, let's go all. Change is imminent. Change is something that will happen, whether you like it or not. It's a matter of how you respond to it. It's a matter of how you give yourself into it. It's a matter of how you give into it. And you need to learn to accept that I am going to change. And sometimes change is not only just about your relationship with your wife or your kids. Sometimes changes has to do with you. Sometimes you just need to accept the fact that I am changing. Because there are certain things that you would love to keep when it comes to you. But because of the age and because of you having to adapt to particular things, you are definitely going to change. Oh, thank you, Tando. Thank you, Tando, for liking, for reacting to the video. But you are going to change because of certain particular things that you go through in life. You see, sometimes negative experiences can either bring change for good or can either bring change for good for bad. You might have experienced abuse in a relationship. Yes. In fact, you know what? For us men, in most cases, we experience abuse in relationships. And nobody believes that. When you go to the police station, they laugh at you. And that's why sometimes you find men that actually behave in certain different ways. That's why sometimes you find men who are very insecure. It's simply because of the certain things they've experienced. Sometimes men have experienced, oh, thank you, Evelyn. Sometimes men have experienced, what's this? Have had relationships with women who have cheating, and that changes how they respond to women in general, simply because of probably one or two women. Heck, I can give an example. I remember when we started my relationship with my wife. At one point in time, yeah, I've been cheated on. I kind of developed a part of an insecure insight to me. I remember at one point in time, um, she was sleeping and I went through her phone. And stupid me, I must say, I didn't see that that message was from 2 years ago, which we were not even dating by that time. We were not even together by that time. And the guy was saying, yeah, you must come back home to Swaziland. I'll take you out and all that. I didn't see the date. Now, my past experiences made me to react foolishly to that. See, sometimes that's what you need to understand, that men do get hurt. And that brings a particular change in us. It brings a particular change in us. As much as women have got that change that is brought by men, so do men have got a change that is brought by women. But what I can say is that with us men, for us men, is that we need to learn how to change that and make that work for us. We need to learn to say, you know what? Not every woman is going to treat me like that. You need to accept that. You need to accept that, and you need to accept that things are going to change. You are going to change. You don't only just change physically, emotionally as well. You change through certain circumstances of life. You change. It's there, it's inevitable. God made a man as a free moral being. Now, as a free moral agent, as a man, it means that because of moral decisions that you take in life, some of them actually will have repercussions which will bring change into you. Jesus Christ never promised us a life where we're going to be perfect. Heck, we are imperfect beings that are heading towards perfection. And man, I want you to tap yourself on the chest and say, out of all these things that I've gone through, I can still become a better man for my wife, for my children. I can still teach my daughter to be a better woman. I can still teach my son to be a better man because of what you have gone through. It's very important. Let the change that was negative that you have experienced, Let it be positive for your kids. Don't be afraid to take your daughter and sit down and let your daughter know about the vultures of men that were once like you, probably. Because change is something that's going to happen. Just gear up and be ready for it. Peace out. Thank you for tuning in. For those that tuned in, means a lot to me. And catch you tomorrow. For those that never got to watch, it's still gonna stay on my timeline. Please, please, please comment, criticize me. I want to be better at this. And as I keep on saying to you, that probably after lockdown, men, we are gonna have our own time where we're gonna sit and talk and just share to each other, so that we can, let this pain go through each other. We can share the stories, our pains. Thank you. Share to each other. So I'll let you know of the date and of the venue and how it's gonna go down. As I always say, guys, I'm not perfect, I'm not the best, but with the little wisdom and the little experiences that I've gone through, I'm willing to share with you. And also, please let me know what you think. Drop your comments and your criticism on the comments there. If not, you can still inbox me. It's okay. I would love to become better at what I'm doing. You know what? God bless you. Have yourself a wonderful time. Enjoy lockdown. Shop.